Hi there, I'm David, and welcome to my review of the Schoeps, if I'm pronouncing that right, MiniCMIT, CMIT. Let me start by apologising for a bit of a bait and switch. I said in my last review that I was going to be reviewing the MKH8060 by Sennheiser in this video. And I'd made a bit of a mistake in my schedule because the MiniCMIT is one of the benchmarks for the 8060, and therefore I need to review it first. So welcome, instead, to a review of the MiniCMIT. By this time, if you've seen one of my videos before, skip past this if you have, you will know my methodology. I set the peaks to be between -12 and -18, I measure the noise floor, I read out 20 sentences that are between 1 and 9 words, testing character voices, sibilants, plosives, proximity, etc. I balance the levels between the microphones at the time of setting gain, and then normalise the comparisons for audibility, but don't make any adjustments to the individual microphones. I do no editing, other than the editing to make them all appear in the right order and have the name of the microphone appear on screen, and no second takes, just those adjustments to balance the sound of the two microphones. For this week's baseline microphone, I'm using the DPA 2017, and that might seem like a bit of an odd choice because it is so much cheaper than the MiniCMIT. And the reason is pretty simple. Let's have a look at the frequency response. As you can see, they are incredibly similar. And that may lead you to ask, if they're so similar, why is one so much more expensive than the other? And indeed it is. The DPA 2017 is £829 from Wex in the UK, affiliate link below in the description, and $1,095 in the US from Amazon, again affiliate link in the description. The MiniCMIT, on the other hand, is far more expensive. The cheapest place you can get it in the UK is Pink Noise, not an affiliate link in the description, just a regular link, £1,772. And in the US from BH Photo and Video, not necessarily the cheapest place, it is $2,605. My experience with the microphone is minimal. So other than taking these measurements, they have very similar self-noise. The 2017 has 13, the MiniCMIT has 14 dBA, and the noise floor is very similar as well. The DPA 2017 gets -68, which is excellent, and the MiniCMIT gets -69, which is the second lowest I've ever had, and actually, at the time of this review, it's the lowest. Come back next week to see the real lowest. So I wasn't a fan of the DPA 2017 because it was so uncoloured as a microphone, which might be contrary to what a lot of people look for. My expectation of the MiniCMIT is the same. So, I'm not going to faff around talking about these microphones more. Let's just listen to the comparisons.
Cue dramatic music. Cue dramatic music. Or don't, we're not your mom. Or don't, we're not your mom. Crunchazoids. Crunchazoids. Now, imagine the perfect espresso. Now, imagine the perfect espresso. Precision is not an option. Precision is not an option. Talk to someone who gets it. Talk to someone who gets it.
I don't think we should go in there. I don't think we should go in there.
I brought you a spoon. I brought you a spoon. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. I'm the best magical dog. I'm the best magical dog. All are safe under my protection. All are safe under my protection. Roll up, roll up, roll up, roll up. You just got mud on my shoes. You just got mud on my shoes. I was never in the shadows. I was never in the shadows. Client said it'd be easy. Client said it'd be easy. I'm going to count down from 3 and then... I'm going to count down from 3
and then
kill them all. Kill them all. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. They're right behind you. They're right behind you.
Now, you'll know if you've seen any of my videos before, I don't just like to compare the raw audio of the microphones. I like to see what they sound like after a very similar FX chain has been applied for audiobook purposes, just with different EQ for the microphones. And for that, I always use the first paragraph of Winnie the Pooh. So let's listen to that with the two microphones now.
Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh.
So straight on to conclusions, possibly getting to the conclusions faster than I've ever managed before. So what do I like? Well, this is both a pro and a con, but I find the MiniCMIT to have a proximity effect that is just nearer rather than bassier. Now, this is both a pro because it means it is a very honest and transparent proximity effect, allowing you to sound nearer. On the other hand, it means you cannot use the proximity effect as an effect and making your voice sound deeper, which is in many ways a disadvantage for voiceover work. I found the MiniCMIT to be fairly unprone or less prone to sounding boxy in my head box because of the stronger cut in the lower frequencies that it has than the DPA 2017. And the noise floor bears mentioning once again as being absolutely excellent and almost beating out every other microphone I have ever tried. It also has the same pros as the 2017. It is nice on the higher pitched end of things, particularly I'm going to count down from 3 and then, it sounds excellent. I won't play it now because it sounds very similar to the 2017. You just hear the same thing twice. And as with the 2017, it has excellent transient detection. I think it sounds quite punchy. And I think that's especially noticeable on the Winnie the Pooh recordings, which of course leads us to an important point. Everything I've said is very similar to what I've said about the DPA 2017. Now, given it sounds remarkably similar to the DPA 2017, should you spend the extra money? It's over twice the price. And frankly, for voiceover, I've got to say the answer is no. These microphones are shotgun microphones. It's a fairly niche use using a shotgun microphone for voiceover work. They're designed to be used in far more dynamic environments where they need to cope with wind, they need to cope with bad weather, they need to cope with occasionally very uncareful handling. If you consider a microphone like the MKH416, it's legendary because it's almost indestructible. I suspect these microphones are also fairly indestructible, and I would imagine the MiniCMIT may be more indestructible given the price. But for voiceover work, none of that really matters so much. It just matters in the size, how it sounds, how much it costs. And given that, I've got to say, if you're going to get one of these two microphones, you should probably get the DPA 2017. However, you really shouldn't get the DPA 2017. You should come back and watch next week's video and discover the greatest shotgun microphone the mind blower, the best microphone ever. Yes, next week I'm reviewing the Sennheiser MKH8060, and it is every bit as good as I hoped, and more. I will see you next time.